Good evening and welcome to our European vacation. We just got to visit the great country of Spain and the Asturias region, inspired by the composer's grandmother's life, which I just think was a really beautiful story that we got to tell through that. Before we get started, I need to mention that we have exits on all sides of the buildings, and please don't run, just walk in the event of an emergency behind you and to the sides. I am Sarah Fisher, and I am the proud conductor of the Brighton Community Band, and I'm one of the teachers here at Brighton High School, and I think you're in for a real treat. I love all of these pieces, and I hope that you get to join too. Our next piece is from Belgium, and it is March of the Belgian Paratroopers, which is a pretty standard piece in the band world. But I was reading about the composers and the pieces prior to tonight's concert, and I was stunned to learn that the composer wrote this piece in a single night. It just made me feel at peace of knowing that I, too, am not the only one who just waits until the last second and then gets everything done at once. But this piece was written near the end of World War II to celebrate the paratroopers of Belgium. So enjoy. Our next piece is a beautiful piece by Percy Granger, an arrangement of Irish tune from County Derry, which many many of you are going to know as O Danny Boy and Shepherd's Hay. They are both English folk tunes, and actually Percy Granger was originally Australian and ended up moving to the United States. And he's really well known for this and another piece called the Guitar Posy, amongst others, but he went about the English countryside, essentially, the Irish countryside, recording folk tunes and then transcribing them for different ensembles. And this is a piece that is a staple in the band repertoire world. Anyway, we were joking about Irish. Okay, should I do it? Okay. We're gonna play your Irish Hey. Okay. So anyway, it's a two-movement piece. Is the one thing I do want to really stress. So we have the first movement is going to be this beautiful slow piece, and then we have a second movement that's going to be much faster. I hope you enjoy.